Well, maybe while we're waiting for Ray, I might ask one of our other advisory council members. I know that Dr. Dale Walker is on and Patrick Kafflooking is on. I'm wondering if one of you might be willing to open us up in prayer and instead of Ray, since we don't see him yet.
Hi, this is Dale. I'd be willing to say hello and offer a prayer.
Thank you, Dale.
First of all, hello to everyone. I'm Dale Walker. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm also Cherokee of the Bird Clan from rural Oklahoma, near Claremore, Oklahoma. I live now in Portland, Oregon. I'm a professor of psychiatry at Oregon Health Sciences University. I've been working in Indian country now for about 45 years, if you can use your abacus to count them that many years. It's an interesting time, isn't it? One of the good things we have is our faces, and the fact that we see our eyes, we see the look and the hopes of people around the country in a way that we couldn't do until this year. And so in a way, I say thank you for the outreach, the participation, the work that people are doing across the country on this line. I ask Grandfather to help us, to heal us, to make us happy and secure and confident. And then let's use the word hopeful. I pray that we can share our thoughts and ideas and support one another through a difficult time. Many of our families have experienced losses, if not direct losses from COVID, perhaps vocational losses, housing losses, and difficulty at this time of the year. I also acknowledge that our friends in Iowa have had a great deal of trouble this last few weeks. I pray that they're safe and that they're happy in getting things back together. Iowa is a farming place, and we always think about the growth and productivity of nature around us. And I think that might be a message for all of us today, that as we pray for all of our people. What a time of stress and difficulty, but what a time of opportunity. And I hope that today, Grandfather, you can help us all, that you will put us in a place where we can bring ideas and share thoughts and protect our families while we're on this line. Think about the people that we represent at home and those neighbors and those elders who are near us. Think about the children that are in chaos right now, wondering about what the next week is going to be like. Will they be safe? Will they have the things they need to kind of take the next step in their own lives? And can we, as parents and grandparents and supportive people, can we do the things we need to do to help our families and to help each other in this time? All of these things I pray. Grandfather, let us hear the words and support and love that we have, and let's make this happen today. Aho.
Oh,
Aho.
thank you, Dale, for that. Very much needed. Okay, so hello, everyone, and I'm glad to see so many faces. And welcome to our first session of the special weekly series for the tribal schools as they reopen amidst COVID-19. My name is Teresa Brewington. I am Coharie and Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina, and I'm the program manager for the K-12 National Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. I've been involved in mental health and education my entire career. I've been director of mental health facility, a school guidance counselor, and a school principal for a tribal controlled school. Today is part 1 of 2, as our speaker, Melissa, who we will introduce here in a few minutes, will be coming back next week. However, we will continue to provide weekly sessions as long as it's necessary in order to support and guide our school community as they reopen amidst COVID-19. We'll be sharing a link to our survey at the end of the session. The survey just takes a few minutes to complete, and it asks for your satisfaction with the event, and we ask that you take a few minutes to complete it because we do want to hear your opinion. It also gives you the opportunity to provide us with ideas and suggestions for other topics going forward. Also, we'll be getting in touch following today's event to share any additional information. We will be saving the conversation for the chat and compiling resources shared and other helpful information, so please be aware of that when you're writing in the chat. We will remove sensitive information. However, we are recording today's event only to gather information for a needs assessment, and especially because we were overwhelmed with requests of those that were not able to attend today. And we feel like this is a very important series, and we wanted to get it out to as many people as possible. However, please note this is a safe place for sharing your concerns and your experiences. Also, Melissa has a PowerPoint presentation, and everyone will be getting a copy of this. Please use the chat box, or you can raise your hand. Myself and my co-workers will ask your questions as we go along, as well as spending the last few minutes today for questions and answers. I would like to welcome our director, Anna Helena, and allow her to introduce herself and to welcome everyone.
Thank you very much, Teresa. We're very happy that you are starting to work with us on this project. My name is Anna Helena Shinsta, and I'm the director of the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. I also want to say that we are finally, Dr. Walker were referring to our trouble in Iowa, and we are finally getting electricity back, but not consistent. So it's been a rough go the last 2 weeks. We have several advisory council members on board today, and I so appreciate you all joining us. And we have Dr. Melvina McCabe, we have Pat Calf-Looking, and Melanie Johnson, Ray Daw, and of course, Dr. Walker. So welcome all of you, and thank you for all your support. And we have staff members on supporting us, Kate Tramps and Noah Segal. Thank you.
Thank you for that. For today's sessions, we are very fortunate to have Melissa Isaac as our presenter. Melissa has done a remarkable job in her district to ensure that Native students return to learn in a safe learning environment. So now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Melissa so she can introduce herself and begin her presentation.
Miigwech, Teresa. I will have Noah go ahead and bring up the PowerPoint. All right. So I was trying to think of a name for how I was going to guide this conversation, and we always root everything we do here in our Anishinaabeg ways of being and knowing, and so we use our sema, our tobacco, and we really use that as our guiding force for all of the decisions that we make. And so I was thinking about the time that we're living in, and the uncertainty, and the anxiety and the fear, and all of these things. And so I came up with tribal schools and Accolades Manidozents. And what that means in our language is Accolades means sick or not feeling good, and Manido is a spirit, and when it's Manidozents, it's tiny, it's little. And that's the word for virus in our language, is a little spirit that doesn't feel good or causes sickness. And so in our language, the science tells you, virus isn't alive. It's, this organ, or not an organism, but this thing that doesn't think, or, it just kind of does its own thing. In our language, it has a spirit. And so we talk to it, and we ask for protection for our families and ourselves. And we ask it to show us the lessons that it's here to show us, but keep us safe at the same time. And so that's how we talk to it, and that's what we call it. And that's kind of what guides our decision making from the start. So I just wanted to share that with you as we continue. Go ahead, Noah. All right, so Wabzikwe Dijnakas, Name Dodem, Saginaw Chippewa Keenan Donjaba. And if you look at my pictures on this slide, Wabzikwe is my name, and my Anishinaabe name, which is Swan Woman. I have that name because if you've ever encountered swans in nature when they're with their babies, what do? You can't even look at them, or that swan's gonna come and they feel like you're causing them harm. And it makes sense because I'm like that with my own kids, and I'm also like that with our tribal students, no matter where we are, any Indigenous young person. People just right away, they know that about me. So that name is fitting. My clan is Sturgeon. Sturgeon are, the way that it was explained to me was sturgeon are they're big presence, right? They're huge. They're in the water. And if you watch them in nature, little fish tend to swim around them for protection. And so that explains also a lot of what I do. And that all came to me as I was kind of going down this path in my life. And of course, I'm from the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan. I'm a citizen there. Some things to know about me is that I am a mother. I always say that first before any academic accolades, before any professional accolades. This is my most important job right here. I'm married to a wonderful Anishinaabe Nene, Anishinaabe man, and we have 4 beautiful children, as you can see in the picture. I'm the Director of Education for the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe's tribal education system. And we have a K-5 sovereign school. And when I say sovereign, I mean that in every sense. We choose what assessments we want to do. We choose if we're going to follow state standards. We choose if we are going to learn our language, our songs, our ceremonies. We choose the academics. We do not receive federal funding. We're not a BIE school, and we don't receive any state funding either. We are paid for solely by our tribe. So that's where we get our sovereignty and our flexibility. And so if you look at that picture, we're standing in front of the lodge, the longhouse that's in the back of our school. And we do tobacco ceremonies and sing our ancestor songs in there. And again, that's what we're really rooted in. Also, my academic accolades, I was a certified teacher that's expired now because my path took a different way, but I have a degree from Central Michigan University and Bachelor of Education. I have a Master's of Science in Administration. Yes, fire up chips. I see all that in the chat. And then I also just started last week my doctoral program in educational leadership. We got a lot of fire up chips in here. So I just started that last week, so I'll be getting a doctorate in education and educational leadership. All right, so what I'm going to talk to you all about today is our Return to Learn plan and everything that went into that for our students. As you see people or districts coming up with plans, either they are all the same and very uniform, or they are just night and day, and parents have to figure out what they're going to do with their schools. And then some smaller schools like ours are kind of on their own. We just have to kind of figure it out and come up with what we think is best. And so I'm going to kind of describe it and lay that out for you. And then, of course, if you have any questions as we're going through, feel free to ask. And Teresa and Noah, okay, are going to be the ones who ask those on your behalf. So we'll go to the next slide. And I have so much to say, you guys, like I'm just really trying to keep it like focused. All right, so how did we come up with our plan? It's very, very crucial and very important that you establish collaborations with just about every stakeholder that you can think of that can help keep your students safe. And then you do a lot of information gathering. So hopefully, if you don't have a network now, you can start to reach out and have people that are doing the work already so that you don't have to do it again. And what I mean by that is there's so many people keeping data on the sickness and the spread, and there's so many people who are, funding. They know where to get funding and CARES funding and things like that. So the bigger your network, the better, because the plan that we came up with took a lot of collaboration and information gathering. So we'll start with in Michigan. So this is specific to Michigan. We'll start with the My Safe Start Plan is what it's called. And this is really what we focused our plan around. And we'll go to the next page. So this was Michigan's economic recovery program. And what we did was we took this and applied it to schools. So we have different phases, and I'm not sure what it's like in other states, but in Michigan, we have 6 phases. And we're broken up into regions. So different regions have different phases. This is all based on data, the number of people that are sick, things like that. So if you look at 1, that's what happened in March, if you recall. There was uncontrolled growth. We didn't know what was going on. Hospitals were getting overwhelmed. People were getting sick, and nobody really knew what was happening. And that's a phase that we call stay home, stay safe. So numbers are increasing every day, and it's overwhelming the health system. Phase 2 is persistent spread. So you can continue to see high case levels with concern about health system capacity. So it's, we kind of know what's going on, but it's still, we have to figure out how to control it. Phase 3 is flattening. So case growth is gradually declining. Those are the first 3 phases, and it's important to know those 3 because those apply to our plan, and those are all lumped into one area. Phase 4 is things are improving. Right now, our region is in phase 4. So cases and hospitalizations and death are clearly declining. You can have small gatherings, restaurants you can go in as long as there's social distancing, things like that. Phase 5 means that things are a whole lot better, and you can have bigger gatherings. You can, bars are open, restaurants are open, travel, you can travel if you, take the precautions. And then level 6, or phase 6, is post-pandemic. That means the virus either goes away or there's a vaccine or something is happening where the community spread is not expected to return. So this was all done by scientists and people like that, like in the medical field, and they put it together for, again, the economy of Michigan. So phases 1 through 6, we'll talk about those again. What our governor did is she got 25 people and said, we need educators and parents and students to come together and come up with a plan for how we're going to return to school. And so what those 25 people did was, there was thousands who applied, the most that have ever applied for any committee with the governor ever in history. It was like 1,800 maybe or more, and she had to choose 25. So if we go to the next link, right here, yep, page 4. If you look on the left column there, Return to School Advisory Council, those are the people that were tasked with coming back for a plan for a safe return. If you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th name on there, I was one of the 1,800 people that were selected for this council, which was.
I have to interrupt, Melissa. Was this just people in your school district, or did you ask for help outside as well?
Yeah, this was from the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. She established this for the whole state. And so what I did was applied for it to have an Indigenous or Anishinaabeg voice on that council,
Okay.
because, you know, tribal voices are often not heard or even seen. So yeah, this is a governor's council for the whole state. And so I had a seat on the council along with the rest of these really talented people to come up with this plan. And the plan is the My Safe Schools return. So if we scroll down to page 11, now I'm really proud of this page, even though it's a single page, because the way that it was in the draft initially was, yes, we know that COVID-19 hits brown and black communities more than any other community. And so that was it. But our priorities are going to be socioeconomic, like all of these other things that I identified. And I said, whoa, wait. So you're going to open up with a paragraph that says that brown, marginalized populations, brown kids, black kids, are the most susceptible or the most sensitive to this virus, but you're not going to go any further and they're not going to be one of your priorities. And so they were like, oh yeah, well that's, you know, so I was hoping they wouldn't take out the paragraph, which they didn't. They finally put in the demographic breakdown of the students in our state. So I'm pretty proud of this page because it almost wasn't there. But it's there. And as you can see, if you scroll down just a little bit, the American Indian, I think is how, yeah, 0.6% of the students in Michigan are American Indian or Alaska Native. It's a very small percentage, but it's relevant as tribal nations. So that's in there. Yeah. So if we scroll down to page 14, remember those phases we were just talking about. So 1 through 3, I said those are very important, and to remember that, because the way that the council decided was if we're in phases 1, 2, 3, and this virus is kind of running rampant and it's, you know, we're back where we were in March, the decision is going to be that there's no in-person instruction. Kids should not be in school in big groups like that, and that it's going to be remote only. And so it gives a little bit of stats about the virus status. All the schools in Michigan are going to be remote only. So if we drop, right now we're in 4, so if we drop back a phase because things keep getting bad, this is what's going to happen. Some of the things that we need to keep in mind if we're in phase 1 through 3 is safety protocols, mental and social emotional wellness, instruction and operations. And so there's a lot of safety protocols that are in phase 1 through 3. So if you just want to scroll down and we can like take a peek at those, we won't get into them. There's a list of required things, and there's a list of highly recommended things and just recommended. So there's no question about that page. That has to happen. In this one, it's strongly recommended. And so, you know, it's really up to schools to determine which of the recommended or strongly recommended things that they want to do, but they cannot opt out of what was that word? Not strongly recommended. Required. Yep, so they can't opt out of the required things. Now, as tribal nations and being a sovereign school, we absolutely have the right to opt out of this whole thing if we want to. We don't have to do anything that's in there. But when you're talking about viruses and things kind of running rampant and cases going up, the science just makes sense. And so we will choose what we want in here based on the needs of our school. So phase 4, as you can see right here, is the phase we're in right now. And this took the most prep to try to figure it out, because you're right in between. 1 through 3 is easy. You already know what you have to do. Phase 4, it's like, well, it's kind of okay right now. Phase 5 is like, yep, it's getting better. We can gather in big groups. It's, you know, it's a little bit safer. Phase 4, you have to tread more carefully with, because you're right in between those two things. And so that's our position right now. It's the same layout. What is the status? Under this plan, schools can choose to meet in person if they have the proper PPE. So face masks, they can do half days, they can do full days. If they only want to do remote learning, they can only do remote learning. It's really up to the districts and the school buildings to determine how they're going to execute that. And same with us, it's up to us on how we execute that. So that's laid out. If you scroll to page 21, or not scroll, yeah, there you go. You can type it right in. We won't get everybody motion sick in here. Oh yeah, 37.
Phase 5?
Yes, phase 5. Here we go. They all look the same, right? Phase 5 is the one above. And so this is right, you know, like I explained before, things are better. There's less restrictions, less safety is required, but there are still things in place that we should follow. So that's phase 5. And then if we go to page 53, this is phase 6. This is post-pandemic. So we want to continue to practice good hygiene. We want to, you know, kind of keep an eye out because, you know, COVID-19 isn't going anywhere, just like any of the other viruses. They can be controlled. However, we still want to, you know, keep an eye out. So phase 6, we're not there yet. With the way things are going, we won't be there for a little while. But that's the 6 phases. So 1 through 3 is remote only. 4 is you're right in between. Phase 5 is it's a little bit more normal. And phase 6 is post-pandemic. All right, so I just wanted to lay that out because our plan is obviously dependent on that outline, but not totally. One of the things that I really like to highlight in all of this is in the prayer that was it Dale mentioned a time of opportunity, and that's one of the things that we really think about. There are a lot of things that were always wrong to begin with, but were never addressed, but now are brought to the surface. So we have the digital divide. We always knew not every kid had access to technology or internet, but now we really know, and people are actually trying to do things about that because of COVID-19. And I also see, and I don't know if this is the same on all of your social medias, and not for everybody, but I noticed my timeline or my social media newsfeed is filled with people who are doing their own gardens and really exercising that food sovereignty piece. And there are people who, and we're one of them, there are people who are, we've got some chickens. I'm a chicken farmer now. So we have 5 chickens because we were like, well, you know, this will be good for eggs and our kids can get into this and they can learn a lot from the land. And we're harvesting. And so we see a lot of people who are, they're watching webinars on, you know, their languages and, you know, there's a lot of positive things that are coming out of it as a result. You know, just to kind of keep that in mind and reframe that when we're thinking about COVID-19, there's a lot of positive happening from it too. So I just wanted to thank Dale for mentioning that. All right, so when we were doing our plan, when I talked about collaboration,
Melissa?
Yes.
Real quick, we have a question.
Okay.
And you may want to just address this a little bit because I don't know if it's going to be, I think it's part 2.
Okay.
But several people wanted to know how social emotional needs is going to be addressed with remote learning because some schools have opted to do the remote learning only.
Oh, okay. So we can get into that a little bit. We have, and this was pre-COVID, we actually knew that social emotional trauma informed practices. We knew that our tribal students have a lot of historical trauma and things like that. And so we were busy applying for grants pre-COVID, and we actually got a very beautiful, substantial grant through SAMHSA called Project Aware. And so we have a lot of supports for staff and students using Project Aware funds, and that is in the next session that we have. exactly what we're doing to provide services through COVID. And we did that since March, and the team is amazing. I couldn't ask for a better team because they really did the outreach and provided the really creative ways to support them. So yeah, if you stay tuned and come to this next week, you'll hear specifically how they have been able to accomplish that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, so as far as the collaboration is concerned, all right, so we know we have heard what the state is doing. Even as a tribal nation, we don't have to do that, but like I said, if they're going to do the work for you, then why not? Like, let's hear what's going on. So we partnered with the Michigan Department of Education and the state of Michigan. CMTED is the Confederation of Michigan Tribal Education Directors, and we're all 12 federally recognized tribes in Michigan. All of the education directors get together quarterly. We have monthly calls. Well, now it's monthly calls only. We used to get together quarterly pre-COVID. And what we do is we share ideas and ask each other, what are you guys doing for this? What's going on there? Just to support all of our learners in the education systems, tribal and public. We have a local health department here called NIMKI Clinic, and we run all of our plans through them when it has anything to do with COVID. And they are partnered with our Central Michigan District Health, is what it's called. And they get together and they give us that medical perspective on things that we may have questions about. Can we take temperatures of our students? Is there anything FERPA or HIPAA compliance? Like, by doing this, are we violating that? And they give us all of the feedback that we need for that. We meet with them weekly. We put out a family and community survey. As a tribal school, we are a community school. It matters what the community thinks and wants and needs. I can put out all this programming that I think is best for everybody, but I don't know individual households and what their needs and wants are. Because if I do something and I put out, all right, it's all or nothing, we're meeting in person, no face mask required, or you can do online learning. And if that's not what the tribal community wants, they're going to take their kids from my school and go to public school because maybe they have better options. And it's just really good leadership practice to involve all of your stakeholders in making these life or death really decisions when it comes to COVID-19 and tribal nations. So we did a family and community survey, and we could have just given that because somebody asked me, Melissa, why are you opening this up to the community if they don't even have students in your school? I said, because we're a community school. Some of these grandmas and grandpas and aunties and uncles care about what happens to their students. That's important. So we opened it up for everybody in the community. We also gave our staff, Saginaw Chippewa Academy, we did a staff survey. Again, if I come out with this plan and the teachers are like, this is not at all cool, like how are we supposed to come up with remote lessons and in-person lessons and all of the safety stuff, because teachers are people too and are processing this just like we are. And they're on the front line working with all of these kids and are being possibly exponentially exposed. And so we wanted to hear what they had to say. And so we gave them a survey. It was anonymous. They didn't have to say who they were, identify themselves, and ask what they thought. How do you see yourself returning? Do you see yourself returning? If you came back, could you wear a mask for an extended period of time? We just laid it out there and got their feedback. So the families, the community, the staff. We also needed our Tribal Education Advisory Board. We needed their input as well, because the board is going to ask me, did you talk to the families? Did you consider this? Did you consider that? And just keeping that communication and that relationship positive. So they gave us their input. And so we compiled this plan, and then I took it to the people above me, my tribal administrator, and said, here's what we're going to present to council. What do you think? Because he works with them daily, and he can tell me, oh, they're going to be concerned about this. They're going to ask that. He has some good insight. And so then I help prepare and be able to answer those questions. And then lastly, we took it to our elected leaders, our tribal leadership, and said, here's our plan. We laid it out. We explained it. What do you think? And because so much effort went into it and every perspective was considered. That's what they're there for, to make sure that every perspective is considered. And so they really supported it. They passed a tribal council motion to say, yes, we support this plan, because at the end of the day, we are making decisions. And I mean, is it ever realistic to satisfy 100% of the people? Not usually. It was interesting in our survey because when we gave it to the parents, we had exactly, not backwards, different results. So the public schools did theirs with like the non-Indigenous people and, you know, all the people they have in their school. And 20% of their population said they wanted online only. 80% said that they wanted to be face-to-face. And I thought, well, that'll be interesting. I wonder what our tribal families think. And so when we executed our survey, it was exactly the opposite. 20% were, yes, I would like face-to-face, but I know if we can't, it's just the way that it's got to be. And 80% said, I don't want my child to have to report in person. It's too dangerous. We need to keep our kids safe. We need to keep our community safe. And so that was interesting because every superintendent that I talked to of a public school, it was 80-20. And mine was also 80-20, but the opposite of what theirs was. So our tribal community is very different than the general community. Even though they're close to us, it's very different. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't ask them. So it's very important to ask them.
Melissa, somebody asked, and you may have answered that, was it just that one question? Do you want online or on-site learning, or
No.
what types of questions did you ask? And was it a paper survey, or was it internet survey, or both?
So what I can do is I can send you the survey questions, and then you guys can share them with everybody else. We did both. We did a Google Sheet. So we sent out a link. Mostly everybody's on social media. So we have tribal membership pages that citizens just create for citizens. So I shared it there. I shared it in our supportive parents page. Mostly social media is where I shared that out. And then I also shared it out in our tribal network. So we all have emails in our tribal network. And so I blasted it out to everybody in our tribal organization. And then we also offered paper and had them a Dropbox installed in front of the school to say, all right, if you want to fill this out, go ahead and drop it in the Dropbox. Nobody did paper though, which was interesting. They're pretty techy, which I was surprised by because I thought for sure if we just did online only that it would cause problems, but it didn't. So I'll send you the questions, and we did offer paper and we did offer online surveys through Google Sheets or Google Forms. Somebody's asking, I can see it. How many responses did we get? 80% of the school responded, which for surveys is pretty high. So I was happy with that. It was solid feedback. So our planning team for our Return to Learn plan was me, my assistant director, our principal, and our curriculum instructional coordinator. The four of us with all of these other people and all of this information that we gathered came up with this plan. And so we will take a look at it. All right, so here is what taking all that information, this is what we came up with. We came up with, if you look, there's a link on top for enrolling students. So we added that in here. Phases 1 through 3, we decided to align that way with the state because our school is K-5. For example, I have a first grader who goes to the tribal school, and I have a middle school student and a high school student. And their plans are all different. But in phases 1 through 3, we're all going to be closed together. And so we're thinking about the families that have kids that have aged out of our school when we're taking this into consideration as well. So phases 1 through 3 is closed for in-person instruction or screen, and closed for in-person, open for screen to screen. We are fortunate enough to be able to provide Chromebooks and technology for each of our students because the school is so small. But the tribe also received CARES funding, which helps with technology, and that's what paid for. So we had a Chromebook cart with like 30 Chromebooks. We were able to get enough for every student through CARES funding because our leadership knew, all right, what happened in March, we need to order this and get it ready just in case we transition again, and we should have them anyway. So we were able to do that. And again, we're very fortunate because we wanted to know, like, do you have access to internet? 100% of our families had access to internet. Right now, what we're working on is to have Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi map. We're going to make a Wi-Fi map so families know in our community, where can I go to patch into some internet if maybe something happens and it's out or times get tough and they can't, pay for it. So we're working on that right now to provide for the community. Yeah, some don't even have Wi-Fi. That I was shocked that so many of our, like, everybody had it. I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is a dream. Like, this doesn't happen. So we were prepared to buy hotspots. I know a lot of our rural Upper Peninsula schools, hotspots don't even work there. And so that's very unfortunate for those more rural populations and trying to help them with technology. That just happens to not be the case here. All right, so our phase 4 plan, which is right now, you guys saw the viral status. We have 2 options, 2 choices in phase 4. You can always choose online only. That's always an option throughout this whole pandemic. That's not an issue for us. Or option 2 is blended learning with an A-B group schedule. Okay, that sounds difficult. What does that mean? So our biggest class size here is 20 students. That's the biggest. So class sizes are pretty decent. If 100% of our students chose hybrid or in-person learning, they would be split in half. So 10 would be in group A, 10 would be in group B. Group A students come on Monday and Tuesday for half the day. And then everybody stays home on Wednesday, and they all learn online together since they each have their Chromebooks. And then Thursday and Friday is at-home learning. So they will get everything that they need on Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they're learning at home. Group B, as you can see right underneath there, if there's Group A is in school, then they're at home. So they just kind of flip. So 10 students in Group A, 10 students in Group B. Half days. Half days are because we also are utilizing our CARES funding to hire and bring in a cleaning team to clean and disinfect every day, so that nobody will be in a building from 12:30 to the end of the day, because they're going to be cleaning the playground, they're going to be cleaning everything. So, and they'll also be there while the kids are there and cleaning the restrooms every hour. So that's through the CARES funding, because normally we have like a janitor, but there's no way he can keep up with keeping things clean and tidy for a whole school by himself. So that was A and B. This was the most comfortable and most the option that families were very comfortable with. We have about half of our students in the hybrid group and half of our students in the online group. So 20. If half of them are already you're learning online, that's 10, right? Then you split that 10 in half, and there's 5 kids in each class. So talk about like that individualized approach. It's going to be, a really good learning opportunity for our students. And also we're cohorting. So cohorting means first grade is only going to be with first grade and their teacher in their classroom. And they're going to, if they're in the hallways, then they, of course, they're going to have their masks in the common areas. and then they have to, go outside and play together. They leave, go back into their classroom. The cleaning crew sanitizes like the swings and the monkey bars or whatever they're playing on, and then the next group will come out. And so it's a very organized schedule as far as these groups of students. But again, it reduces the exposure of the families and the kids when some of them are learning online, some of them are in school, the other ones are learning at home. So those are the two options for phase 4. If we switch down to phase 5, things get better. We're going to go 5 days a week. We're bringing those two A and B together. So all the first graders that are hybrid learning will be all together. So let's say it's half of the 10 of them will be coming Monday through Friday for half the day. And then you still have the online learning option for the parents who just don't quite feel that it's safe enough yet to bring their students, or maybe they learn better that way. Maybe they prefer the online learning. So those are the two options there. And the beauty about all of this is if we switch and we have to go down to phase 3, they already have their Chromebooks. They're already learning at home. It's going to be an easier transition for the students and the families if we have to go that way.
Listen, we've got a few more minutes left. Is this a good place to stop, or?
It is, yep.
Okay. We wanted to give people just a few minutes if anybody has any questions they want to ask. I think you answered this one, Melissa. Somebody asked if the teachers were swapping, but I think I understood that the teachers were not swapping, correct? It would be the same teacher with the student? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was me. And the reason I asked that is up here we're, in the UP, we've got our superintendents from 5 different schools met, and they kind of came together with the same game plan. But one of the things that I wasn't overly impressed with up here at our school was they decided to do K through 8 would have a hybrid opportunity, and for the high school, it was more of you could do online, but then you had to stay online unless you did the homeschooling programs. So, and I still kind of don't fully understand why they chose that route instead of making it a hybrid at the high school levels as well. But
yeah. So I just want to kind of address why superintendents did that, because that's common. So what ended up happening was the superintendents in our region got together and said, we're going to do the same plan. It doesn't matter what our population is. It doesn't matter what our specific issues are, because what they don't want to happen is for them, if they lose kids to a neighboring district because they like their plan better, then they lose funding. So that's why and I heard that conversation in our council. They were like, well, what if they don't like our plan and they go to this other school and I lose funding? It was a business decision to come up with the same plans.
thank you. Yeah, that actually clarified it. And I asked our principal, and I kind of just got the answer. Well, that's what our administration came up with.
Yeah.
Their decision. And I thought, well, I kind of would rather know the reason behind it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it, but I talked to one of the board members yesterday, and she gave it to me and kind of made some sense after that.
Yeah.
And it's understandable because schools are already underfunded anyway.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Way too underfunded.
Yep. Yeah, there's the budget shortfalls and all these things. So 20%, if 20% of your population is telling you, I don't want my kid in school, 20% of your funding is substantial.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have time for one more question if you want to really quick.
Sure.
Someone did ask if you could share the organizational plan for cleaning, and I think you were going to do that, correct?
I can. Yep.
Okay. And do the teachers, were they trained in using the Google Classroom or whatever they had to use to be online? Were they trained well for that?
Yes, this time they were. The first time it was like, here's some packets, kids. Maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe we won't. And then it was like, well, we got to switch to online. And I mean, they knew I felt for them, but they like had to hurry and learn and work through it the first time. We learned from that, and so all summer we've been sending them links to free trainings, and it's pretty cute now because they have the Bitmoji classroom set up and things like that, and so they had to learn fast the first time, but we knew that was going to be a situation, so we've been providing them with the free Google trainings that are offered in our region.
And did your school make parents sign a liability form
For coming back?
In case they got sick at school?
I think if we were a different school, we would, but we have sovereign immunity as a tribal school. So we don't, I mean, we let them know that, you know, this could happen,
Right.
but we didn't have to have them sign anything saying that, you know,
Right.
here's the legal part of it.
Okay. Melissa, you're awesome. I appreciate you so much. What you're giving us here today is just, I can't express how important it is. So I do appreciate it. I think you're doing a great job. I think you've been very thorough in your plan. So if we need to do a third session, I hope you can. We may need to do that. I hope that everybody enjoyed today's session. I hope you did learn something. We are going to take the questions that we weren't able to answer and make sure that Melissa has that so that she can answer them next week. Okay?
Is
And
this continued until October 29th?
I'm sorry?
Is this continued every week until October 29th?
Melissa was planned to be here next week for sure, and I'm thinking we may need another week for Melissa, but we're going to be here doing this every week at this time as long as we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Because we're here to support you guys while you're going through this transition. Any other questions really quick?
And I just wanted to jump in and say I put up a poll so we can get just an idea of how people feel about recording these sessions and sharing that. And then, yeah, just if people have concerns about this time being working for people especially with schools starting, but that's part of the reason we want to offer the option to record these. So if people can attend, then we can hopefully share that, but we want to get approval from the majority of the group if possible. So thank you.
And if it's a big enough need that we're going to miss a lot of audience that needs to be on here because they can't during school hours, we can absolutely do it in the evening as well. So thank you guys for being here today. Again, thank you, Melissa, for that information. I hope everybody got some good stuff to take away with you today. And I hope to see everybody next week.
Miigwech, Bamapi, everybody.
Aho.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Oi.